Are you protected on your vacation rental? Your business? In this video, I'm going to talk all things insurance. I get to sit down with my good buddies over at Proper Insurance. So we talk about all the things about insurance, what to look for, different kinds of policies, my claim. I did have a claim. We'll talk about that. So stay tuned. I know it's not the sexiest topic, but it's probably one of the most important, if not the most important. There's a lot of them.
Hi, I'm Nick Massey. I'm the Chief Sales Officer slash Head of Education, if you will, de facto kind of position I've taken over. I've been with Proper Insurance going on almost 10 years now. My background has been always in specialty insurance. I started in estate planning and commercial products, life and health insurance stuff for farmers and ranchers. By nature, I find myself to be kind of more of a teacher, and knowing how much lack of education there was around asset protection for investment properties and stuff like that, I was just really drawn to the opportunity. And now here we are almost 10 years later, and we've worked with and helped hundreds of thousands of short-term rental operators across the U.S. I've had the opportunity to speak in literally in front of tens of thousands of people over the years on this, so real excited to join you here, John, and try to demystify and break this down into very digestible, bite-sized stuff when it comes to insurance.
Totally, man. And I've seen you on so many podcasts. You definitely make the circuits quite a bit. Yeah. It's impressive. But like you said, it's funny. I just have to say this real quick. It's so interesting to watch you guys lately. The content's been so awesome, and you guys doing all the webinars, because we all know insurance isn't clickable. It's not clickbait. It's not the sexiest topic to talk about. But definitely got to be like one of the, if not the most important things. So it's awesome that you guys are like taking such a strong stance on educating. And I think you guys even done a few webinars with our advocacy group, which has been super cool. So
Bass Pro Shops, one of them, big shout out to Alex, our content person. She got us nominated for a Shorty Award for the best use of social media. So we've really leaned into it. And I enjoy the format because we can, again, make insurance kind of digestible in bite-sized pieces without getting into or needing to like explain all the crazy lawyer jargon that's in a contract. Like let's break down the contract into simple terms and what this means and you know what's going on with the regular market and why there's misses or things that are wrong with those. And really get people engaged with, like you said, an unsexy topic. Kind of like buying car insurance. You don't buy car insurance for you buy it for the people driving cars around you, actually. So
that's solid. That's a little nugget you just dropped there before we even started. Look at that, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to break this down into sections too with your expertise help, but we're going to go over. The first section is all about like STR insurance 101, like the like you said, really stripping it down. So like we'll go through a handful of these questions, but do you need extra insurance? Like that's probably the most common question.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion on if you need extra insurance or do you just need to get new insurance. And our MO is you need to get new insurance. How a lot of stuff was handled before was you'd get a regular homeowner's insurance product that actually doesn't really cover you, and then you'd supplement those gaps through quote unquote extra insurance, right? So you get the supplemental products. Everyone knows about air cover, and they're, you know, hey, we have this free insurance product. Vrbo does similar stuff. Other companies kind of do the same thing. If you've been in the market long enough, you've seen the uprising of all these supplemental companies that come out too. So there's still a place for extra insurance, but what you need to actually do is get insurance that's specifically correct to the activity happening at the property. So from a 101 perspective, what I like to break this down, insurance it actually works really well in rules of three. So there's three types of primary products for a property. There's a homeowner's policy, or HO. There's a landlord dwelling policy, or a DP contract, and then there's commercial. In this space, if you're doing short-term and mid-term rentals, you actually kind of need bits of all three. So that's where proper insurance kind of comes into the scene. It's like, let's custom build a policy that's all three of them. If you're watching on video, you can see my hat. What do you think the chain is? It's got all three of those policies put together, right? So that's what we did. And there's other companies that do stuff very similar, but you really kind of need to go back to the beginning and look at what your needs are. Obviously you need building coverage and contents coverage. You need liability. But all three of those different contracts have different language and how they respond and work. So like a homeowner's policy is only going to cover you for a primary residence. It has to be your residence premises. A landlord policy, in its basic sense, covers a long-term rental as a residence. And then a commercial policy can be custom built for whatever the business is. So you do need all of them, but specific buckets are going to call out specific exclusions. So
I like how you said you need all three. I don't know if I've ever really thought about that, because it's your homeowner's insurance, but it is a business. So having all three, that definitely clarifies a lot of that.
It's a concept of occupancy too that's written in there. So like a vacation rental home, a lot of us get into the industry because we're buying a second home in a market we like to visit. So why not buy a house there now?
Yeah.
And then you're going to use it yourself, so you need residential coverages. And you're going to short-term rent it, which is a business, but sometimes you might take in somebody who's displaced by their own insurance claim, or you take in a traveling nurse or other professional on a slightly longer term or a mid-term stay. So that's where you really kind of need concepts of all three. And then there's a fourth type of occupancy that I think a lot of folks forget about, and that's vacancy. And so vacancy, when you have a claim during a vacant period, all contracts are written a little bit differently on the time frame. But you could have reductions in coverage when it comes to vandalism, theft, water damage, etc., because the property is vacant at the time of a loss. So that was one thing we took into consideration as well, was let's just delete that language from the policy. Just get rid of it, because sometimes these properties are going to be vacant.
Yeah. Well, and we'll definitely talk about that, because in a couple things ahead, because that's one thing I always get really excited about proper. And when I educate people, they're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that and that. So it's super cool. I'm an Airbnb ambassador coach. I teach a lot of new hosts that join the platform. And I'm always trying to find out ways to better explain this question, because it's like all the time, brand new hosts, they're like, oh, but I have air cover. I'm just on Airbnb. I have air cover. Doesn't that cover me completely on my rental? And I almost feel bad, because it's like, they do such a good job on the marketing of air cover that it's like, man, you should 100% not rely just on air cover. Can you kind of better explain why air cover is not your homeowner's insurance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so air cover, it's not that it's not insurance, it's more like a guarantee. But the biggest thing, just as simple as I can put it, is if you don't have an insurance policy with your name and your property address listed on it, you technically don't have policy rights. So you're kind of at the mercy of their decision, whoever the OTA is providing the insurance, right? More often than not, in our experience, we get a lot of no's on the OTA provided coverage. So that's where, the difference between having insurance to having extra insurance. Air cover is just extra insurance, right? If they respond, awesome. Chances are they probably won't. They're also making a lot of changes to that. So if you have more than 6 properties listed on Airbnb as an individual host, a super host, a co-host, a property manager, then air cover states, they've changed it, I believe it was as of March 1, where it says like your primary insurance has to respond first.
Oh my gosh.
So it's evolved over the years, especially since I've been in the market. But if you're a host or hosting properties and you have a lot listed on the platform, there's now a new diversion that's coming back to what we've been saying for years, which is you have to have your own insurance, and it needs to be the right insurance.
Because at that point, they're considering you as a professional. You should know, quote unquote, you should know better. They're like, you can't come to us. Is it safe to say that like air cover is in the business of protecting Airbnb, not necessarily protecting the host so much, right? So like,
yeah, I mean, I'm not here to. I don't run their program. I don't know
Yeah.
all the ins and outs of their contract and stuff like that. I mean, we've talked to tons of clients who are like, oh yeah, I had a great experience with them, so like I believe in it. It's like, well, that's great until you have the big situation where they say no to, and now what happens? So it's, prepare for the worst, expect the best, right?
That makes sense. Like you said, you can never be over. For me at least, I don't feel like I can ever be overly insured. What are some of those gaps in the rental products? And maybe you can kind of explain.
Yeah, so kind of a couple of like big overarching ones. So for an annual insurance policy, one of the biggest questions we get when we say, okay, well, what's your biggest concern? Like, why are we talking today? And the number one thing is damage caused by a guest. And significant damages by a guest they happen, but they're kind of rare. It's not every day you have $100,000 in damage to a home because somebody threw a party, right? Yep. Broken lamps, broken tables, that stuff happens. Pots and pans go missing, things like that. And that's where the supplemental products would really come in to help you, whether it be air cover or like a Wavo or a Rental Guardian or a Super Hog or stuff like that. So guest damage is a big one. And so all insurance, every single insurance product is standardized through what's called ISO. And the industry, they just standardize forms. And in those policy forms across all three that I mentioned earlier, they have exclusions and or limitations around entrusting a property to somebody who's not an insured or family member. And so what that means is when I hand the keys over to you, John, and then you and your buddies throw a big party and destroy my place, I don't have insurance now, right? So because I'm negligent, because I'm the one that gave you the keys to my house, I let you in and you did it, that's my problem, not the insurance. So that was kind of step number one in the development of Proper's product, was that's a massive limitation, let's get rid of it. Yeah. Now there's a couple other companies that do the same, or they have what's called a sub-limit where they say, okay, this is not covered, but we'll add in a little extra coverage, sometimes like 5, 10, 15, 20,000 for guest related damages. Some of them define it as accidental damage only, and so malicious or intentional acts are not covered, so that's a big one. The other big one is water. So water damage is the number one claim in insurance, as you're aware, and I'm sure we'll get into that topic. So if you're going to have a claim, doesn't matter what kind of property you own, the number one thing that's going to happen to you statistically is water. And so we're starting to see these days a lot of limitations on water damage. Either it's another sub-limit where water damage is only covered to like 25,000, sometimes 50,000 in total damage. We see limitations on backup to sewers and drains. We see high deductibles, so they might cover your water damage up to your policy limit, but now you have a $25,000 deductible out of pocket just on the water damage alone. So we don't do that either. So that's another part of our development and the product of saying, look, we know we're expensive, and good insurance doesn't cost pennies, it costs actual dollars, and we're going to make sure that the money you're paying in premium is best served and leveraged by not having those types of limitations in. And then the third big one is the liability. So back to the rule of three, because again, the two biggest concerns are one, guest damage, two, getting sued. So now it comes down to what type of amenities do you provide? So one of the biggest things in liability today, especially with hot tubs and pools at properties, is what's called communicable disease. So Legionnaires is a growing issue. The CDC put out a report and a memo on December 11th that they had to do this because there was such an increase in Legionnaires hospitalization cases with hospitality establishments involving hotels and private short-term vacation rentals. And so Legionnaires is a blood infection. 1 out of 10 people who contracted unfortunately passed from it. And there was like a 50% increase year over year on it. So communicable disease is a big one. You generally don't get that on premises liability. Air cover excludes it. It's not covered on their policy. And then a lot of commercial policies excluded as well. So again, it's one thing that, again, we look at that and go, okay, we probably shouldn't exclude that. It's kind of part of why our premiums are more. And so those are some big things. Pet-friendly properties as well. Dog bites happen. I don't think you should be held liable because your neighbor's dog bit your guest, but unfortunately you'll be named in a lawsuit. So do you?
Yeah, that one's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, my neighbor's dog, how does that affect?
Yeah. So people just get named in lawsuits. They just sue everybody, and do or do not have coverage. And then furthermore, like if you are a pet-friendly property, you should probably make sure you don't have limitations on dog bites, right? And so those are things where the standardized insurance markets don't really address that, and nor do they really care because they're not in this industry.
It's so crazy about some of the things you said, like the hot tub, because we all know that we're basically in like an amenity war or an amenity battle, wherever you want to call it, right? And I mean, a hot tub is like standard now. One thing I love about proper, you guys have always done, is what I don't know, right? So like, I know when I was doing my policy with you guys looked at my listing, you're like, oh, so you have a Peloton bike, oh, we see that you have a hot tub, like, are you doing X, Y, and Z? And it really helped me. Like, I didn't know some of those things. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna make sure my hot tub guy is taking a picture of every time he does the chemical testing and make sure that he's going through those steps correctly. That's one thing that like most insurances for sure are not going to do.
No, it's buy the policy and don't ever talk to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I came from that place, right? And it's like that's just not who I am as a human being. Us coming in and saying, look, I know you want to offer that, but you shouldn't have a trampoline in your backyard. You shouldn't have a zip line. You shouldn't have this or that. And what I always like to tell people, and for your students, John, or for anybody listening to this, if it's not a searchable amenity on the OTA, don't offer it.
Great point. 100%. Yeah. If you don't have that little click button, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm searching for pools. I'm not searching for inflatable pink flamingos in the pool.
Yeah,
I'm looking for a pool, right? So as long as I check pool, I'm going to find your property. Yeah. I'm not searching diving board. I'm not searching zip line. I'm not searching a $300,000 Mastercraft wakeboard boat, right? So like, if you can't filter by it or search it as an amenity, you probably shouldn't offer it at your property.
I try to do whatever I can not to do a claim because it's just not a fun process. It's, in theory, you think, how stressful is it? Oh my God, water broke. I didn't notice, and it leaked my floor. I got to cancel all my bookings. I'm in the like my experience is like I had a water issue, and then it was in high season just a couple months ago. Really, it was in high season. I was back to back bookings. Like I had to call every single guest and try to like help them find a new place and cancel. And it was like I was so stressed out. But I have to say, and this is by far no shameless plug to Proper. The second I called Proper, I was like, I am so stressed out. I got back-to-back bookings. I have a water leak in my kitchen. I don't even know what to do. Like I thought I was paying attention to everything. Can you help me? And right away they were like, just try to relax. We'll help you. One, with the cancellations, and don't stress out about that. We'll help you through that. It's high season. Let's just get this job done. Within like 24 hours, we already hired my contractor. They were talking with Proper. My contractor even said, oh, I've worked with Proper before. It's amazing. They're so easy to work with. That automatically made me so less stressed. And I was like, okay, no stress. Let's just go through the steps. And it was relatively very easy. I think within like 2 weeks, you guys were completely done. My house, I could start renting my house again. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, walk us through that a little bit, John. So like, I know you've been a client for a couple of years now, and this was your first claim with us, right?
Yeah, knock on wood, first and last.
Yeah. So that's what a lot of people don't understand with a specialty company. So just to kind of set the stage here, we used to use what's called a TPA, or a third-party adjuster, and like, I promise you and I probably would not be having this conversation if we still utilized those companies, because your experience would have been completely different. They stink. They're so bad. I don't like them. And so what we ended up able to do was we got into an agreement with Lloyd's of London in 22, I believe it was, 21 or 22, that, you know what, these other companies are tarnishing the brand and the program. We're going to bring this in house. And so we were very diligent about hiring very, very experienced claims people, and bringing them in from those other companies, the good ones, and putting them on our team to do that, because who knows our policy better than us when it comes to handling a claim. So it's very rare to have in-house claim service.
So maybe I got lucky on you guys changing that over, but that was a huge learning curve. And it was, to be honest, it was kind of nice to go through it, because I was even that much more a fan of Proper at that point, because I was like, I really felt down when it first happened. I was like, oh man, dude, I'm gonna lose so much money, and I gotta cancel on these guests, and now I gotta deal with my insurance company.
To kind of touch on something, I think it's important, because it's a big thing that we didn't really talk much on this conversation, is that loss of revenue.
Yeah.
Right. Now, it seems like you were pretty fortunate that the claim went quick. I mean, I've had other conversations with folks where their water damage is so severe. I mean, they're shut down for 3-4 months. Right.
Definitely worried that could have happened.
Yeah. So the difference between loss of revenue and loss of rents, if you don't mind me asking, John, how much income were you out on those canceled bookings on the gross revenue side?
Just on one booking alone, to give you guys a perspective, it was an 11-day booking in high season, and it was $14,000 was my rate, right? So that alone, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose all of this. Like, this is crazy.
So, and then do you have an idea of what a similar property like that in that market would rent on a long-term basis?
Long-term, that's a good question. Probably. Oh my gosh, man. Not even half. Like, short-term rentals just get so much more.
Yeah.
So that's like, to keep it simple, let's say it's half.
Yeah. So that's one thing that we see a lot, and that's where we kind of go back into these other retail market policies to kind of bring this full circle. The difference between loss of rents and loss of actual income. So let's say you were out $11,000, $12,000, $14,000 on an 11-day booking, 11 days. But the average market rent, let's say for that house, is $3,500. Okay, well, what's $3,500 divided by 30 times 11? That's what you get paid, right? Oh. And so the difference between those two coverages alone is massive. And it's so big, and I want everybody to kind of understand, it's not just about how much insurance you have on the house and the furniture, but how much income do you have and how much money do you need to float the home for, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months or 200 days, or your house burns down, you could be shut down for 18 months. That's massive. You either have enough money in carry costs for 12 months for your property set aside in the bank that you don't touch, or you're going to be heavily reliant on how the insurance policy responds to that. That's why you're paying more for insurance, and especially with properties, because we're taking that into consideration as part of the coverage package. So it's always great to hear you had a good claim experience. I know not everybody might listen to this and like leave a comment on YouTube or something that's like, well, I had damage and it wasn't covered. Like, oh, unfortunately it wasn't covered in the contract. But that situation, yeah, water damage is the number one claim. Of course, the claim you had and that we're talking about was water damage.
That was during the golf tournament. It was like, that's why we rushed to get this job done so fast, because the golf tournament was like that following week. Like, we got it done, and then 10 hours later the guest checked in. It was like barely made it in time. But man, I just like, I felt very what's the right word? Like, I felt very protected.
Yeah.
Like, you guys were helping me through that process, basically.
Yeah, no, and it's in our best interest to get you up and running as quickly as possible, because like we've been talking about, specific to us, and I hope there's other companies out there that have this same MO, but like, we're a partner in your business. We want you to be back up and running. Full disclosure, we did not treat John any differently just so I could get on the podcast. Okay, I just want everybody to know that.
That's so funny you said that, because I said that to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, of course they're gonna like do whatever they can for you because you're probably gonna make a video on it. And I'm like, nope. I told them I wasn't gonna make a video on it on purpose. I wouldn't post anything about it, and I wanted to go through it like. So that's funny you said that. We got to do this again, man. But I totally appreciate your time so much, and hopefully this will help a lot of people understand why I talk about proper all the time, to tell people, like, I just want people to not get caught with their pants down, as like a lot of times people say,
The last thing I want to see is any market in the United States suffer any type of banning or overarching regulations or this or that. Like, responsible homeowners are responsible homeowners, and you should be able to rent your property, and you should be able to share your place in your town with people who want to experience it. And so I just, it burns in me, that passion to help out on that sense outside of selling you an insurance policy.
Again, man, you're the man. I appreciate it. Please invite me to Montana sometime soon.
You just tell me when you book the flight, John. We got a place for you.
It'd be so fun, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was awesome. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. I'm going to chop up a bunch of edits too, because I know this is long. In my link below, I am an official partner with Proper. This is another reason why I really wanted to talk with them. The link will be below. Do yourself a favor, get yourself a quote, talk to the guys, make sure that you're insured. I would hate for anybody here to run into any problems, but hopefully you guys enjoy that. See you next week. More videos to come.